Help me to stay competitive against the big multinational corporations by subscribing to this channel, hitting the notification bell, liking the video, and maybe leaving a comment in the comment sections below. Thank you very much and enjoy the video. Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hodcast. Okay, on this episode we have more footage from the Greek and Turkish borders. I'm sure that you haven't been kept up to date by the mainstream media in regards to what's happening in Greece and on the border with Turkey, because the mainstream media has an obsession with the you-know-what virus and scaremongering as per usual. So, being the good and decent person that I always am, I will keep you up to date with what's happening on the Greek and Turkish border, because it is vitally important for you to know what's happening, because whilst the European Union criticises Greece, to no benefit to themselves, is holding the line on our southern border, because being a part of Europe, and believe it or not, we still haven't left the European Union. We voted Brexit almost 5 years ago and we still have not left the European Union. But whilst we're still a part of the European Union, our border basically begins at Greece. And you're going to see, because we've got a lot of footage, but you're going to see acts of war, legitimate acts of war being carried out by Turkey, which is a country that, to my understanding, is a member of NATO and has for some time wanted to gain entry to the European Union. They can take our place. We're leaving, you can take our place. And we'll see who makes a better member. We'll see who uses who then. Okay? But this member of NATO, who doesn't really belong in NATO, as far as I'm concerned, is engaging in acts of war against Greece, as you're about to see. And it goes to clown world proportions, because you're going to see footage of Turkish military personnel, members of Turkish army, pretending to be refugees. Now, we know that the refugees are essentially fake refugees. They're actually economic migrants. So you have a situation where you have fake refugees pretending to be fake refugees. How crazy is that? Clown world. Okay, let's get into the footage. Okay, so what you've just seen there is Greek tanks racing through the streets of towns across southern Greece, heading towards the Greek and Turkish border. Why are they heading to the Greek and Turkish border, you may ask? Well, Greece and the Greek government have discovered, to their dismay, that there are Turkish regular army personnel who are not only in their colours, but are also disguising themselves as refugees, or as I put it earlier, these are people who are essentially fake refugees because they are actually Turkish army personnel who are also pretending to be fake refugees, because the actual legitimate fake refugees are actually economic migrants coming from a variety of different countries. They're not just coming from war-torn Syria. They come from sub-Saharan Africa, Northern Africa, other parts of the Middle East. They are not genuine refugees in that sense. They are what the Canadian Prime Minister, or the joke of a Prime Minister, calls irregular migrants, which is a purely Orwellian term. It's the only reason why they've made it up, is to fool you. That's why they make all of these new buzzwords. That's why there even is buzzwords to begin with. It's why they shift the goalposts and they hold different people to different standards. It's all Orwellian. The design is, and the goal is, to keep you fooled long enough to the point where all of your rights and even your nation state itself has simply dissolved and been replaced with globalism. So the Greek regular army is heading to the border. So now we have, at the Greek and Turkish border, we have on one side the Turkish regular army, and on the other side the Greek regular army. If that's not a crisis, I don't know what is.
شوفوا شو صار شوفوا صار شوفوا خلاص ما عاد يحسنون يشوفون الكلاب.
So as you can see here, the Greek border is burning. This is an act of war. How could you call it or characterize it as anything else? And we can't expect any leadership from the European Union. After all, these are, quote unquote, the future doctors and engineers we were promised by the globalists. I often call them the future of the Labour Party, because they are the people that the British Labour Party chose to abandon their traditional voter base in favour of. The same sort of thing has happened across Europe, even across the Western world, where left-wing or traditionally left-wing governments have decided to abandon the working people, which, by the way, give the Labour Party their name. Labour just means work. The Labour Party is the Workers' Party. And they habitually just ditch them and abandon them in favour of these new globalist ideals. And when we don't go along with them, we get called every ism and ist in the book. And at the end of the day, everything we said, everything we warned about has came true. The reason why we are so pro-borders and pro-nationalism is because having lived in the real world, we can appreciate the value of a border. A border basically keeps what we don't want out and what we do want in. That's the whole idea of a border. A borderless world does not make sense at all. It'll just be the death of the nation state itself. But that won't be applied evenly across planet Earth. It'll only be the West. Countries like China are playing a very clever game. They are definitely 4D chess players. For all the criticism of China, it's not their borders that are on fire. It's not them who are having to go through what you're seeing on your screen right now. And finally, the final piece of footage I want to show you is how, since the outbreak of this terrible virus that the world seems to find itself in at the moment, the Turkish army has cleared most parts of the border from the actual migrants who are trying to get through and the Turkish army disguised as migrants, because a large number of them seem to have come down with the bug. And what you're seeing here is the trash strewn everywhere that they've left. Is something they seem to have with in common with left-wing kind of environmental activist types like Extinction Rebellion, those types who, when they turn up for an event, they often leave the place completely trashed of just trash everywhere, garbage and refuse, even human waste and drugs, equipment, just everywhere. And that is in stark contrast to, and it's a bit off subject, but that's just in stark contrast to something akin to a Hell's Angels event. Hell's Angels will often tidy the place up once they're finished and before they leave. If outlaw motorcycle gangs can do it, I'm sure Extinction Rebellion, who claim to be all for the environment, can. And getting back to the subject in hand, what you can see here, and I've played the film on this footage on loop a number of times because the person who took the footage decided to only take an 8-second clip for whatever reason. So it's on loop just so you can see it, and it's on there whilst I'm yapping on for too long. Okay, Three Thinkers, I was going to finish up with my outro, my inspirational words like I usually like to give to the people, the minority of you who actually make it to the end of the video, and thank you very much for doing so. But instead I thought I'd leave you with 2 video clips which brighten the mood a little bit, because we don't like to be negative. We prefer to be positive. If we can be positive, we'll be positive. And the 2 video clips I have for you is, the first one is, and by the way, on a more serious note, if you needed more proof that the Turkish regular army are at the border and they are actively trying to break down the border, not only of Greece, which is a sovereign nation, but of the European Union as a whole. But as we know, the European Union really doesn't like borders, so it doesn't bother them one jot. But anyway, so we have the Turkish regular army. They're there, and we've had the spring thaw, the ground's thawing out, and their military vehicles are getting stuck in the mud. And the Greek police on the other side of the border find this hilarious, and they're laughing at them and cussing at them, which is great. You're going to see that just in a moment. And finally, we will end with the Greek police and the border officials who are holding the line for you and me. Not just themselves, for you and me. Because their border is still our border. It's basically the start of the Western world. And they are singing proudly and patriotically the Greek national anthem. So we'll end with that. Anyway, here's the 2 clips, and thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, and share the video, because that helps me stay competitive with the big multinational corporations that have chose to prioritise the mainstream media, who hate you. Okay, so here are the clips. Thank you and goodbye. I'll see you in the next one.
Κουρμίνι το κομμάτι. Κόμπρα, κουρμίνι, λάμπρα τι κάνα, τι πάτανε. Από την κόψη του σπατιού την τρομερή